What we say at Screen Sanity is it's not a matter of if my child sees porn, but when. Pornography makes up 25% of all search engine searches.
Wow.
That's a quarter of anything searched online is pornography. Common Sense Media reports that 41% of teens report seeing online porn during the school day.
Oh, gosh.
I know. I hate to be like the Debbie Downer right now in this, but it's the reality of what's happening and being able to equip our kids for that.
Hey friends on the trail, we just had an incredible conversation with Jamie with Screen Sanity, and there's so much there. I felt like we could have talked for 3 hours. So here is part 2 of the podcast recording that we can't wait to share with you. Okay, there's a movie called The Social Network. Is that right?
Or The Social Dilemma?
Dilemma.
Is it that one? Okay.
The one where they interview people from Google and people from Facebook and Twitter and all of that. Do you know, have you seen it?
Yes, but it was a while ago.
Yeah. I saw it back in 2020 and I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Mm-hmm. And it felt so authentic because it's the people that set all those algorithms that are still in place today. And then I don't know what was going on in that particular day, but I watched it again recently and I was again just like, wow, like, and it's dated now. Like there's more stuff going on now, but I'm just curious, like what your reaction is to those kinds of things. Do you think that's helpful? Do you think it's like too far, or like what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it really gives a picture of what we're up against. You know, and I think it really, it also kind of removes, I don't want to say the enemy within your child, but it's like if you really are understanding the way that these big tech companies work, they are billion-dollar industries. They are looking to get our kids addicted, to get, you know, for more money for their business. And so if you really look at it as that's what I'm up against instead of I'm up against my 15-year-old who just won't say no, like who just won't accept no to Snapchat or whatever, I do think it's helpful for parents as a frame of reference. I also feel like it can feel defeating, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to go against this? But I will say the way I feel like our society is starting to swing is we are getting more information. We are learning more about the impacts, the negative impacts, the mental health side of things. We're seeing products come out that aren't just this full-on iPhone. We have choices now that we didn't used to have if we want to give devices, but not the full bells and whistles. So I do think that, you know, and I don't know how it is where you live too, but even school bans, we have that here in some of our bigger districts. Kids aren't allowed to have their phones during the day because they are seeing that lack of ability to form interpersonal relationships and social skills. And so I do think those type of documentary things are helpful to give us a grasp of what we're up against, but also help us think about how are we going to combat that. And I always say that's where getting communities together, parents talking, meeting, that's what ultimately creates systematic change, right? Is when individual people start to make similar choices that go against what we're up against. And so I think it's overwhelming, but I do think it can be helpful to kind of understand really what this world looks like, the digital world.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you keep talking about, let's get together on this. Let's get groups together. Let's get groups of parents, families together to discuss like, okay, I'm going to do this with my kids. Like, what if we all kind of made a decision? This is kind of how we're going to do it. And then come alongside each other for the highs and the lows of all of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love how you're building in, you know, connection. Mm-hmm. So the goal is actually connection with all of this.
Yeah, with our kids, right? And also as parents.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about flip phones and, you know, those other devices that you can buy that are completely like counterculture at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And probably devices that are out there and available that most of us have never heard of because it's counterculture. So, like, educate us on some of this stuff.
Yeah, so on our website, we have a great resource that's called My First Phone Comparison Sheet. And so what we do is we break down a bunch of different products that are out there, kind of how much they are, and then what each one offers. So what I kind of encourage parents to think about when they're starting to think about, okay, I think I want to get my kid a device. You know, my question to them is always, okay, what are we getting the device for? What's the reason that you feel they need the device? Oh, well, they just like ride their e-scooter around the neighborhood all the time and I just want to know where they are. Okay. Well, there's some products out there, you know, like a Gizmo watch, like a Gab phone, things like that that don't have the internet on it. It's really just text and call, right? Which if that's all you're looking for, there are some great products out there now that you can do just that. But if you're like, well, my kid needs Safari for school and they need this app and this app, okay, then maybe the iPhone or whatever, maybe that's what you do need, you know? And so that's a question I like parents to think about kind of before they make the jump is what is my reason? Is it because everybody else has one and my kid doesn't? I don't know if that's the reason, right? Because we're always going to have things in life that I have and you don't, or you do and I don't. And that's kind of, you know, and that's what I kind of tell my kids is like, if they come to me and they want an app or they want a certain thing, I always want to know why. And if they can give me a reason of why they need it that isn't because everybody else has it but me, I'm more open to listen to it and talk about it and maybe see, okay, yeah, maybe we can give that a try, you know, but if it's just, well, everybody else has it than me, that's not always a good enough answer for me as a parent, but that's just me.
Right. Right. And part of your reasoning for that is because like that is an implication of like my self-worth based on something that I own or a thing rather than who I am. Right.
Yep.
We want our self-worth to come from, and if we're people of faith, which I am, I want my identity to come from Christ. I want my identity to come from my family and my self-worth to come from my own mental health in those spaces. So
Absolutely.
yeah. And so, and if we, you know, start getting phones, then what's next, you know, if that's the reason we're getting phones. Right. So, yeah, great points. Okay. So let's talk about, pickups, like phone pickups, right? I heard of an app. I'm a very outdoorsy person. Plus, there's a whole lot of amazing science out there about the power of the outdoors for the healing of trauma. So I'm a big nerd on that. But so I think I heard about it in one of those spaces. But there's an app. I think it's called Forest. I
Okay.
need to look it up. But where if you like for the longest amount of time that you don't pick up your phone, like this forest is growing. And then when you pick it up, like the forest goes back to zero. And so it's this like reverse psychology to like, oh, if I don't pick up my phone, then my forest is growing, you know? And it's
Right.
this beautiful thing you get to look at if you know, spend more time off your phone. So what do you know about apps like that and like suggestions?
Yeah, that I have never heard of Forest. So I'm definitely going to have to check that out. I'm not familiar with that. But another thing that we kind of provide as like a tip that would be similar to that is even just the way you structure your apps on your phone, right? Like on your first homepage, does Instagram and Facebook have to be there? You know, could we put that further back that gets a little bit harder? Or can we uninstall the app where if you want to look at it, you have to go, you know, get on your computer and log in. So we
Right.
encourage people to think about how can you kind of like spring clean your phone, or
Yeah.
how can you turn off notifications that are not from real people? Like, do I need to know that Target is having a circle deal today? No,
No.
but I need to know if my mom sends me a text message, she might need something. You know,
Right.
so looking at like where can we just make it that much harder for ourselves. So we look at screen time in three different kind of buckets of create, connect, and consume. So in the create bucket, that's the apps that are getting our brains thinking, right? Like we're drawing things, we're creating maybe like a cool Minecraft world, if that's what, someone's into. Things that we're using our brain to actually create things. The connect bucket would be, where are we connecting with people? Am I FaceTiming my mom that lives in Nebraska? Am I sending text messages to friends, phone calls? That's where we are really facilitating those meaningful connections. And then that last bucket, consume, that's the one that we want to lower. Where am I just mindlessly scrolling, looking at things that is just consuming my time, that isn't helping me or benefiting me in any sort of way? So just thinking about that ourselves, how can we really minimize that consume bucket and kind of spring clean our phone to eliminate those distractions? Because ultimately, that's what the phone is wanting to do. It wants our attention, right? It gets them the clicks, the money. It goes back to the bigger tech companies like you talked about.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. Very, very helpful. I am taking so many notes. So, one of the concepts with James Trail is that we're all on the trail together. And what that means to us is like, I don't deploy trauma-informed, practices perfectly all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Our family has its own struggles, like that kind of thing. What of this realm is like difficult for you or challenging for you, or what's like some part of your job as a parent or your job with Screen Sanity that's like, wow, this is kind of tough?
Yeah, I think I have two answers to that. One, I think because it is my job and I am informed, I am passionate about it and make own decisions for my own family, but I never want to come across judgmental or shaming other friends of mine that are making different choices. And so I don't ever want them to feel that way just because I'm passionate about it. And so I always want to be careful with my language with them too, and not be judgmental, but also know that they can come to me and say, hey, we tried Snapchat and it's not going well. What can I do? What can I change? And so I think that's part of it. For me is just being passionate in this job, but also always being loving and kind and non-judgmental to those that are choosing different ways than I personally am right now. And then another side of my job is I work for a law firm that does pro bono work for human trafficking victims, both labor and sex trafficking. I'm their intake coordinator. And so I think for me, I can get very passionate about protecting kids online because I see such an extreme. I see the relationship and the correlation of the way kids are groomed, especially higher risk kids. And so it's just always been like a passion for me to protect kids online because I do work with like a very extreme dark side of that as well.
Yeah. What a perspective, which one lends to the other
Uh,
in your work world. And then home life, I'm sure. That's amazing.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. So a huge thing to cover in this topic is gaming, and not just gaming, but online gaming. And I think, if the game itself is rated a certain way, then a lot of us as parents think, okay, we're good. But there's another aspect to it. If it's online and it's inviting in people that we don't know, then
Hmm.
there's a risk there for sure. So how can we equip ourselves and understand?
Yeah, so I kind of have like a two-part answer to the gaming of two different ways that we think about it. So if we want to start with kind of online gaming and, what our kids are playing and who they're interacting with, I think it's important for parents to realize that these online games are places that I hate to use the word predator, but essentially they go to because they know they have easy access to kids. And, there's a lot of popular games that parents probably think it does. Oh, it's Roblox, it's Fortnite, it's this or that. And, they're not really thinking about how people that are looking for interaction with children are looking at as a perfect place to find that. One example that we kind of give like to our kids and in Screen Sanity is So we'll say to them, we don't let them play online with anyone they don't know. That's just our family rule. But we will say to them, if somebody rang the doorbell and you looked out the window and you didn't know who they were, would you open the door for them?
Right.
And they're like, no.
Right.
I mean, they look at me like, why would you ask me that? Like, I'm not answering the door for a stranger.
Right.
And I'm like, but this is online gaming. By you playing and engaging, you are opening that door to them into our home. You are opening them in to get to know you. You don't always know who is on the other side.
That's a beautiful
the megaphone
metaphor.
or whatever you're using to talk to them. And so I think parents really need to be mindful about, can we play the game, but can we do it without interacting with other people? Or can we do it where we're only playing with, hey, we know that's Johnny from school, you're playing with him. Yeah. So we look at gaming kind of from that lens, but then also talking about when gaming can become addictive and start to affect kids' behavior. And so we say that the number one indicator that your child's brain has reached too much in the gaming world is behavior change. So if you notice that you're saying, hey, Tim, it's time to get off the game, and they're just losing their mind. They're throwing the console. They're mad at you. They're yelling, I'm not getting off this game. That's a great sign that whatever amount they've been on before is too much that their brain can handle. And so we tell parents, if you can kind of be aware of that, to pay attention to what is too much that they can handle. And then being able to transition with touch when you're having them get off the game. So just kind of a hand on their shoulder. Hey, buddy, it's time to get off the game. It's just a way to reorient them back to like the real physical world from the virtual world they've been in. And then the number one way to do that is to send them outside afterwards. So getting back in nature, kind of like you said. And so we have a really great resource on our website too. It's called the Kanai Game Decision Tree that you can just print it off and tape it up wherever your kids game. And it's a very simple thing that goes through of, can I game? Your parents say yes. Are you able to transition off appropriately? Then yes, okay, great. You can play it again next time, same amount of time. But if, you go through those behavior changes and struggles, then maybe we need to do 30 minutes less next time. It's just a helpful visual also for the kids to see.
Sure.
And so we have that on there. That's a free printable as well.
Oh, nice. Gosh. It's kind of like y'all thought of everything because it's your job to think through all of these aspects. So, oh man, this has been amazing, super educational, but also hopeful, really. This is something that we can do as we do this together in community with other parents, with other adults. And to any kids that might be listening, I hope that you heard the part about finding that trusted adult or another friend who has a trusted adult. Okay, so I would love to cross that barrier and talk about porn, like pornography, impact of pornography and internet and all the digital spaces. What would Screen Sanity have to say about it? What would you have to say about it? That kind of thing.
I will share a couple statistics. I know this is heavy, so I just want to tell your listeners, it is not truly to totally scare you and doomsday, but just to educate, to be aware, because what we say at Screen Sanity is it's not a matter of if my child sees porn, but when my child sees porn. And so how are we going to be equipping them and be equipped as parents to kind of navigate that when that happens. So a couple of the statistics that we share, again, I had said that the average age of exposure was 9 to 12 years old. Pornography makes up 25% of all search engine searches.
Wow.
That's a quarter of anything searched online is pornography. Porn is listed as the fourth reason why people get online. One in every three porn videos depicts like pretty extreme violence. And then the last one is Common Sense Media reports that 41% of teens report seeing online porn during the school day.
Oh gosh.
I know I hate to be like the Debbie Downer right now in this, but it's the reality of what's happening, and being able to equip our kids for that
Yeah.
is what we need to be doing. And again, around conversations.
Yeah, and I feel like that speaks back to what we were talking about before, to yes, block what we can, but also we need to be having conversations and, you know, not making it a taboo conversation, making it an open conversation. Not open in terms of like this is permissible in my house or this is okay to do at school, but like I messed up. I want to know how to fix this, or I want to know how to do better at this, or I want to help be held accountable, all of that kind of stuff.
And that's one thing that I have taught my kids very young is I don't want them to Google something that they hear at school that they don't know what it means, because that's a lot of times how kids are getting exposed to pornography is it's an accident. And also going back to kind of the bigger realm of these companies, they do that intentionally. So if you're wanting to do a report on the White House and the kids go to whitehouse.com instead of whitehouse.gov, they're on a porn site. I mean, that's the way these things are created. And so, it is an accident a lot of times. And so teaching my kids, and if you hear a word at school that you don't know what it means, if you come to me and ask me what it means, I will tell you in an age appropriate way. It may not be full details, right, of what it is, depending on what it is or how old the kid is, but just trying to teach them that, because we Google everything, right? Who's playing tonight in the World Series? I'm going to Google that, and so that's our kids' natural go to, because that's what we do. And so just teaching them, or if they have a trusted adult, being able to kind of ask those questions another way so that they don't accidentally stumble upon it. But then also having the conversations of, hey, depending on their age, again, how in depth you go. If you ever come across pictures of people without their clothes on, it can be as simple as that. You don't even have to get into the sexual aspect of it.
Right.
You need to shut your computer or put your iPad down, come and tell mom and dad, and we can talk about that so that we can, protect you and talk through what you just saw. And so
Sure.
do you know Good Pictures, Bad Pictures? Do you know
No.
that book? Okay, it's great. So it's called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and they do have a couple different versions depending on what age child you have. And I think it's a really great resource because this is awkward for parents, right? Like me and you, we might be able to have this conversation because we're used to these topics, right? This is in our everyday realm. And so most people, it's not. And they're like, I don't know what to say. I don't want to bring that up. And so I feel like having a picture that a book that lays it out very clearly, very age appropriately, and you're just reading your kid the book, and hey, I want to talk to you about something, the same way I want you to wear a helmet and be safe when you ride your bike, I want you to be safe online. And so I'm going to read a book, and then if you have any questions after, we can talk about it. Some kids are like, yep, that was enough. And then some are like, well, what is, and they have questions, but it's just a way to open that conversation without you as the parent being like, oh, I don't know how to come up with this or how to even bring this up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Another thing that's coming to mind is when we protect our kids, or when we try to educate our kids, or the kids, not just our kids in our home, but kids in general, really each other as well, against like the use of pornography, we're also protecting the men, women, girls, and boys who are in those images. Because many, many times, as you know, they're not there by their own free will.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother conversation, but I always tell my husband, if there wasn't a demand for this, it wouldn't be a business. And
Right.
so a lot of the education and prevention goes into the people that are consuming. How are we teaching our boys, that they don't need to look at this for that, or even for our girls, you don't have to be comfortable doing something like that or watching that, or, having those conversations with our kids as they get older to those ages where they might be more likely to engage in some of that. Obviously not younger kids. So yeah, I agree. It really does. You want to honor the people that are being depicted in those against their will, most likely.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. as a person of faith, like it just makes me want to drop to my knees and pray. All of this stuff does, but that just breaks my heart so deeply. Okay, let's talk about some stories of hope.
Yeah, right. We need
Let's
it
talk
now.
about some like your organization has seen, and shows us the dark side of things, which is what we need to know in order to be educated. But I know you also have like amazing stories of really great things that are happening here in the States, maybe abroad, and not just like numbers, but like a person said this, like lay it on us.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, overall, Screen Sanity as an organization, we are very hopeful and
Yeah,
prevention based, right? Some of the
right.
things I shared today are obviously coming from more the mental health side, more where we are seeing people come to us at the point of, hey, this happened. What do I do? As opposed to just the prevention and like trying to get ahead of things. But yeah, I feel like overall, I know a child that they waited on a cell phone, and their mom told me the other day that they had went to their girlfriend's volleyball game, and they went and watched the volleyball game. The girlfriend's grandparents and parents were there, and he has a phone now, but he was delayed until end of 8th grade before he got one. And the grandparents told the mom, they said, I am so impressed by this young man. Like, he was not on his phone. He was talking to us the whole time, engaged, and you just don't see that a lot. You just don't see that a lot with teenage boys or girls being able to have those conversations. And I feel like that's a story that we hear a lot. And even talking with the teens who have had to wait a little bit longer, maybe during it was hard at times, but not one of them has ever said, I really wish my parents would have gave it to me sooner. They might say, you know what, that was hard when I was in it, but now I see why I did. Or they're able to see the difference in themselves compared to peers that maybe have had it longer or had to struggle with, social media from a very young age, as opposed to not feeling can like driven by their device at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely been the story of my kids. We started things later, gave them phones later, started social media after, later than most, and all of that kind of stuff, phones out of the bedroom and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely still don't believe that we did it all right or anything because, it's just really challenging. But pretty much every one of them has come back to me and said, Mom, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Because they see their peers
Mm-hmm.
and they see what's going on with their peers, and they see the self-determination that they have about their phone. Not perfectly, not magically, but yeah, so beautiful. Okay,
Yeah.
what
And
other
for the
stories can you
parents
share?
that are pushing to wait, I just want to validate that, like, it is really hard. I've done it myself too. My son didn't get a phone until 8th grade, and my middle schooler doesn't have one. And it is really hard to go against the grain, but I will say if you can get through it, it is so worth it. And you will see a difference in the way your child can interact with adults and other peers without having to rely on the crutch of a phone, and feeling like they are connected. Because a lot of our kids, they have 500 friends on social media, but it's not, we say real like REEL, it's not real REAL. How many of those people are you actually having meaningful connection and conversations with? And that's part of why this generation is one of the loneliest generations that we know, because they are lacking that. And so I just think that, and I think the way schools are starting to push and look for ways that they can support too, because they're seeing the lack of interpersonal connections. We're hearing that when the phones are taken away, the lunchroom is louder. That's a new one that we just recently heard, is since we've implemented
Nice.
this ban, our lunchroom is loud again. Like, what a great problem to have, right?
That
Like,
is awesome.
everybody laughing and getting in trouble for talking too loud. Like, that's what we want.
Right.
And then we had another school tell us too that since they'd implemented that, the amount of books being checked out from the library has gone up like tenfold because it's
Wow.
like, again, you can't just sit and rely on this. So we're going back to those things. So, like I said, I do think our society, our eyes are opening. We're not anywhere near the end. I don't know what the end is. I think it's always ever changing with new things that are introduced, but I do think people are aware and there's starting to be a shift of where can we make some changes?
Yeah.
Not eliminate, just make changes.
Right. Right. Move the needle.
Move the needle. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm Gen X and I have some awesome millennials in my life. And some conversations that we've been having is they're like, yeah, we want to like get DVDs and CDs
That
where
funny.
no one is controlling, no one's like, using an algorithm to tell me what to watch next. And I'm like, yes, girlfriend.
Yes. You're like,
Yes,
let me go get you my case of CDs that I had in
seriously.
my car. And
Let's go
then
to
you
the
just
garage.
put it
Yeah.
in and
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Oh,
Exactly. Yeah. And some of their conversations are about like, yeah, we as, millennials are beginning to see the value in things that are tangible and analog. And I just love that. That
yes.
gives me hope, right?
Yes. I could have never learned as a student on a computer. Like I needed a
Yeah.
physical book and textbook to be able to highlight and write the notes. So I mean,
Yep.
I totally get that.
Yep. Very cool. Oh my goodness. I feel like I could talk to you for 3 hours and I'd just be furiously writing notes the whole time because this is such rich content,
Oh, thank
so
you.
important for our listeners and for the world in general. And, I think I was saying this before we hopped on to, hit record is that like I wish you had a zillion dollars and you could be in every school you know, and just getting this information out there to the planet. And it's not get off your phone. It's how can we be intentional about our screens in order to build connections and improve our mental health. Like that's your goal. It's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. And so, yeah, I'm just so, so thankful for our time together. And so I think the last question I have for you today is where do you see beauty in your life or in the world today?
Well, this is probably a cliche answer, but just when I look at my kids and our family, I mean, it brings me joy to watch them grow up. And I have three different ages. I have an elementary school, a middle school, and a high schooler. And so I think that I'm trying to find beauty in each stage of parenting because it is different. What each of their needs are and challenges. And that brings me joy. And that's also why I am passionate about this work because I care about them and their mental health and their friends, and the world that they're growing up in. So that would be kind of a cliche answer, but it is true for me.
Yeah, this has been just wonderful. Is there anything else you wanted to leave us with before we hop off?
I would just say go and check out our website because I feel like there's so many more resources that I didn't even touch on. And if you're a parent and you're like, gosh, I really want to bring my community together and like talk about this and share this type of information, I would encourage them to look at our Parent Night kit. It's you purchase it, but it's all bundled together, press play. You literally just need somebody to be the person to press play and have a space to do it. You don't have to be any sort of expert, anything like that. And I just, like I said earlier, it's the best way to really go about systematic change is bringing community together to know you're not alone in this. We are all trying to figure it out. And what can we do to learn and grow and make changes together?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yes. Everybody go to the show notes, find their website. They have social media handles, believe that or not, and which is a great thing. I want that coming up on my feed for sure. So, yeah, just take advantage of the resources. Thank you so much, Jamie, for being a part today and for bringing your heart, your passion, and your expertise to this. And yeah, to our listeners, we will see you on the trail.
Thanks so much for having me.